Well done to Mr. David Diamante. Happy birthday to David Diamante as well. 51 today. I don't know how he kept going with his voice. He kept complaining throughout the night about my voice. At one stage, they were looking at me. I was like, well, what are you doing? I have no way am I getting in that ring to do that. But he carried on, soldiered through it. And as you heard there, he announced Dmitry Bivol was the winner, and it was a comfortable victory in the end. Never comfortable with boxing, but, you know, in terms of the scorecards, comfortable for Dmitry Bivol. I think we're looking at a special fight. I have to be honest with you, Gareth, I've slept on. I look, we saw him against Joe Smith. I saw him against Craig Richards, and I thought, okay, he's good. But I didn't see special. And now I watch him. His hands are so loose. His feet are great. He's got respectable punch power. I saw Gilberto Ramirez at times have him on the ropes, and I was thinking, okay, go on, Gilberto, this is your chance. He was scared to unload because he was fear of the counter. He can do everything. He's a complete boxer. I don't know what he can't do, and I like that. I like that going forward, because I think for him now going forward, it's a case of being pound for pound #1, undisputed at either weight class. The future's bright. The future's Bivol.
Yeah, I mean, he was brilliant. It was a brilliant Bivol that we saw on Saturday night. And one of the reasons why you have been sleeping on him is because he doesn't shout and scream, and he doesn't, if he's lacking one thing, it's the ability to sell himself. You know, he doesn't over celebrate. He's very Eastern European in that way. Obviously, I think he's half Kazakh and half Korean, isn't he?
I think it is Korean, yeah. I think it's half Korean, half Kazakh.
Korean. Yeah. Mum's Korean. He's a very, very contained character. He loves the sport. He's been doing it since he was a little boy. Had a lovely chat to him about that in Fight Week. And he's always been in love with boxing. He reminds me, he's got a very similar attitude to boxing that Gennady Golovkin's got, in my view. Carries himself with the same air, actually. But I don't disagree with you. He could be headed to the top of the pound for pound list, along with, I think, Shaka Stevenson, who I'm nailed my colours to the mast with. But yeah, it was just a brilliant performance. The timing, the meticulousness with which he does things, the comfort. When a boxer looks so comfortable in there, obviously the first few rounds are always a bit of a struggle, and you know they're trying to find their feet and their range and all those things. But once he'd settled into a rhythm in that fight, it was an extraordinary, it was a masterclass. You have to call it a masterclass, because Ramirez is a dangerous fighter and a southpaw, of course, and he dealt with all of those angles and everything. So yeah, hats off to him. And like you say, the thing now is the future pick for him. Eddie Hearn wants him to fight Canelo, obviously, because that's a massive draw.
Yeah.
And a big fight with Canelo trying to avenge defeat, and Canelo feeling he won that first fight. But it's good if he goes down to 168, because it opens his options. And what we've seen from Bivol this year, I give him more and more chance against Beterbiev, who's quite limited but very powerful. So the key in that fight, and he is a bigger guy, I know they're in the same weight class, but the key with Beterbiev is to beat him to the punch and then reset and move, which he's very capable of doing. He could do that for 12 rounds.
Yeah, he didn't look like he was blowing at the end of the fight. No. He's got this very almost poker face where even if it's tagged, you don't see a reaction to it.
Yeah,
and I think it was a good test for him on Saturday, because look, although Gilberto has campaigned at 168, he's a lot bigger than Bivol, a lot bigger, and he wasn't afraid to kind of get in there with the bigger man, and at times, you know, start throwing hands, and that risk of a counter coming back, he was welcomed and warmed to it. I asked him like why he was so confident Fight Week, and I said, look, why are you so confident? Like almost bordering on arrogance. Yeah. And he looked at me and said, well, I've been doing it since I was 6.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I understood. As soon as he said that, I didn't need to kind of follow up. I was like, I get it. You've been doing it since you were 6. So it's all so natural to you, where you see a lot of fighters and you almost feel like they're thinking all the time. Like, oh, what have I got to do next? For him, it's just so, almost Lomachenko, just so easy. Usyk, so easy. I've been doing it since I was 6.
Look, he does make it look easy. And I've got to say at this point, I've just remembered that I'm really excited about a fight that's just being made at super middleweight. Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, because that's a fight that's really going to be a rock'em sock'em robot fight. And
yeah,
I think David Benavidez is one of the overlooked guys in that super middleweight division right now. And I'd like to see Canelo in against him, by the way, as well. I think that's a great fight if that can be made. I don't know if you rate Benavidez.
I certainly do. I do, and happy you said that, because I asked Oscar about, like, because initially, obviously, I said, look, Oscar, if Gilberto beats Canelo, sorry, if Gilberto beats Bivol, will you try and make Gilberto versus Canelo? And he said, well, Canelo's already made excuses about not fighting Mexicans, which we know we've heard Canelo say in the past. So as excited I am about Benavidez, it looks like Canelo might be sticking to the I don't fight Mexicans thing. But I think Benavidez is one of those fighters that could go up to 175 very, very soon. Again, another very, very big super middleweight. And I make him favorite against Caleb Plant. I think he's got a bit of everything. I know he had problems outside the ring a few years ago. He seems to have sorted all those things out now. So, yeah, I think Benavidez is a great shout. Look, we're getting good matchups. May not be getting the matchups we want, but we're getting good matchups.
We are, and you've got to look. Gilberto Ramirez was the mandatory. He was #1 ranked fighter in the what is it?
WBA. WBA, yeah.
So, what I am fascinated by at the moment is Boatsie's 2 there, Dan Aziz is 3. Yard is 9, Richards is 10, and Callum Smith in the WBC at 1, Joshua Boatsy at 2, Anthony Yard at 3, Dan Aziz at 9, Callum Johnson at 10. I can go down the others. Anthony Yard is 3 with the IBF. We got a group, and one with WBO. We've got a group of British boxers coming towards those guys who are going to have to meet them at some point as well, by the way, you mentioned
Boatsy there, Gareth.
Yes.
You mentioned Boatsy there. Obviously, he was ringside, and he's done a lot of interviews saying, Bivol's good, but I saw mistakes and openings. Yard's going to take on Beterbiev in February. We don't know what's going to happen. Injuries. Beterbiev seems to be picking up injuries. Canelo's hand surgery. We don't know if he's going to be fully ready for May. Could Boatsy be the stopgap fight? And I feel disrespectful saying that, because Boatsy deserves a bit more than just being a stopgap fight. But could Bivol think, you know what, whilst I'm waiting to see what happens with a Canelo or Beterbiev, I could come to London and fight Boatsy, or I could do it in Abu Dhabi again?
Yeah, if they can make enough money out of it and make it a big enough fight, then it is viable. And I think Boatsy gives him a very, very good challenge, as good as anyone in that division, really, apart from Beterbiev right now. I mean, yes, because Boatsy is super tough.
Yeah.
And he's, we don't know until he reaches that level how much he's got in him, and he might have it in him. We don't know yet, because Joshua, again, is exactly the same size as Bivol.
Yep.
Incredibly strong physically, very, very determined. We'll say this about Joshua forever, but he's Joshua Boatsy, but he's had a slow burn since the Rio Olympics in 2016, where he won the bronze. But it might be his time, and he might get that shout. And if Eddie wants to do it, he will. But I know that he wants the Canelo fight for Bivol, doesn't he? And he's come out publicly and said that.